Welcome to another episode of the Antifragility Reframe podcast. This is another in the series of stories on resilience and antifragility from alums from Lehigh University. Our alum today is Mr. Cleveland McCray. He's of the class of 95. Mr. McCray, welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Douglas. Appreciate the time.
So tell us, since you graduated in 1995, give us a little bit of some of the highlights of what your journey has been.
After graduating from Lehigh, I went out to Colorado, just feeling like I had a calling to go out there. I still had some Olympic aspirations because I was a student athlete at Lehigh and was knowing, okay, you know what, they have a great facility that's there in the Olympic Training Center and some other things that had led me. I actually worked for the Department of Human Services and did that for a few years before returning back to Pennsylvania. But during that time frame, things hadn't ended off the way that I had hoped at Lehigh University. And so I pursued that athletic aspiration and was actually able to qualify for nationals and do some other things. I actually worked with the Department of Human Services with an emancipation program. So I felt like my time at Lehigh really helped to prepare me and equip me for that, to be able to meet people where they're at. And that actually continues to today, where I'm currently at Northampton Community College as an academic advisor, helping out with articulation agreements with four-year institutions because I want to provide educational access for underrepresented, low socioeconomic, and first-gen students. That's where my heart lies.
Fantastic. That is part of my passion. I share that passion with you.
Mm.
That is part of my passion. And that's actually part of the reason why a number of us got together to simply say, it would be great if those of us who graduated from Lehigh shared with the present students as they face various challenges, to share with them how we dealt with them and how it prepared us for life after Lehigh. So could you share with us an episode at Lehigh that, as you think about it now, that was really at that time very challenging, almost a
Sure.
crisis?
And a lot of people don't realize this. In fact, I'm hoping at some point that some of my former professors will be able to hear this. But Dr. Rick Matthews, I had taken a class with him in political science and called Introduction to Political Thought. And for whatever reason, he loved my name. So he would always like to pick on me. He taught in the Socratic method. What he didn't realize at that point in time was I was struggling a lot. I was struggling with coming into a new environment. I always had a good, strong work ethic, but Lehigh was different than what I had experienced coming out of high school. And so coming there, I realized, oof, I've really got to set the bar high. I've got to really be able to do things. And I was also at a point in my life where I was in survival mode. A lot of people don't realize this, but even though I was on scholarship, I had a writing scholarship and also an athletic scholarship. I didn't have the means to get books, to get my resources, to get my tools. So when he called on me a couple of times, it's like, ugh, I really don't know. So I had to really do some critical divergent thinking. And so I got to a point where I was starting to check out books at the library. I was asking some of my classmates, can I get a copy and start writing down notes? And I think probably halfway through the semester, I found a little bit of my rhythm, was still struggling with some things, but that was instrumental for me. And I think I did talk about this with Professor Matthews or Dr. Matthews, probably about maybe 10 to 15 years after I had graduated from Lehigh. And to this day, and I think he just recently retired, but I would always encourage students, if you have a chance to take a class with Rick Matthews, take it, seize it, because he is going to challenge you in a way that you haven't been challenged before, and that's good. That's a part of the equipping. Because as we all know, we don't grow from comfort, right? Because stress is like a bell curve. Too little, bored out of our mind. Too much, we crack. Just has to be that right amount of pressure.
Yeah, and and as we talk about being anti-fragile, namely that stress, we deal with it in such a way that we become better, we become stronger, not just
Correct.
resilient in that we're able to hold our own and to bounce back, but we actually become
Absolutely.
stronger, become better. So from
Absolutely.
what
And
I
I would
hear,
layer that with two things. The two B's is what I call them. You can either come bitter or better. That's a choice.
hmm
That's a
yes,
choice.
yes, it is indeed a choice. Yes,
Mhm.
bitter or better. I like that. Yes. And it sounds as though uh, Dr. Matthews, Professor Matthews, it sounds as though that he was a person who sort of expanded what I call expand access to ideas, to other thoughts, to other ways of doing things, and in a way shifted your perspective. Would
Absolutely.
you say that?
Absolutely. And then that actually transitioned into my time, my senior thesis that I did with Al Worth in terms of getting research orientation and getting that, taking a deeper dive into things that really helped to set the groundwork. But it was a struggle. I'm not going to lie. It was a struggle getting in, getting through Lehigh, but it definitely helped to develop and reveal a lot of character in my life. And I realized once I get through this, I'm prepared for anything. And there
Mhm.
was a lot of people instrumental along the way that helped me that probably didn't realize they were.
One of the things actually in these interviews that we've been having, that has been a common theme. Uh,
Mm,
where alum have said, this professor, and in one case it was the professor's wife, who was a staff member at Lehigh, who had helped him, and he said, it's amazing that often they don't realize how helpful they have been. And in every case, which was very nice, as you did, they reached out to those individuals at Lehigh to let them know uh, how critical their help was, at a
absolutely.
particular time.
On that note, I do want to give a shout out, a special shout out to Curtissa Odie, who I actually took a graduate level class with, just one class, but she has no idea how instrumental she was helpful and probably didn't realize Henry as well, Dr. Henry
Mhm.
Odie. But just, yeah, just tremendous. And I'm thankful and grateful for their presence in my life to this day.
Yeah. One of the things we talk about with respect to reframing in an anti-fragile way, namely, shifting perspective and working in a way when faced with challenges so that you become better and not bitter, is thinking about how others would benefit as you approach finding solutions. As you think back at that time at Lehigh and thereafter, what would you say? What has helped you to work in such a way that others have benefited? And certainly,
Yeah,
since you've been in the academic um, life, that's been your career.
my
You
career,
have been
yes.
in that spot where many benefit. But how would you see that, from looking at it as we have this conversation?
Absolutely. For me, it's not subscribing to a victimology mindset because that's easy to be able to say, well, I didn't have, or I'm, having a deficit mindset. And instead of flipping what I would call flipping it on its head, reversing the script. Okay, I'm not losing, I'm learning. I can play a game, I can be in life, I can be in an academic setting. I'm not losing. I'm learning. And so if I continue to keep having that mindset, if my mindset is I only have 5% of the information, a growth mindset tells me, oh, wonderful. That means my growth potential is 95%. The sky is the limit. And it's not just about the power of positive thinking, but really, right? And that's why I love this this, what you're doing here with the dialogues, right? With looking at anti-fragility is really taking a different look and perspective. And for me, there's been things in my life where I could have looked and said, you know what? I'm being buried. No, that's not the right mindset to have, right? Regardless of what's happening in the moment, right? That doesn't have to define me. I can look to define the moment. That's one. Two, yeah, just being able to say, okay, wait, there's a difference between being buried and being planted. You're
Mm.
still underneath the ground, but there's growth because there's time to be able to go under, get a strong root system so that when you do spring up from the earth, now you have fruit and it's producing something. So I can be in a casket or I can be a seed that's being planted. And I can choose how I want to nurture that. I can choose how I want to fertilize that. I can choose that regardless of what comes towards me, it's up to me to make the choice of whether it's going to crack me or whether it's going to build a stronger foundation and grow me. And I
I
have
just,
too much of a growth mindset, and that's what I encourage students as well. And I have plenty of things to refer to so that I can relate. And I think that goes to a Latin phrase, mirabile dictu, the ability to relate. Because I can have all the book knowledge, but until you have the practical application, until you have the pedagogy to go along with what you've experienced, I've been through life circumstances. So when I see somebody who's struggling, I can share with them, hey, it might be dissimilar to yours, might be similar to yours, but I want to encourage you because I know how that feels. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but there's some things that I would encourage you to do differently. And I don't know what your narrative is going to be, but hopefully, maybe if I can share some of the things that I've gone through, maybe that'll be an inspiration moving forward. And then you do the same, pass it on to someone else.
Mr. McCray, one of the things we talk about in the elements of anti-fragility reframing is having a growth outcome mindset.
Mm,
Thank you for ending on a growth mindset. Thank you very much.
thank you.